Hey there, it's Andy from EmailLove, and today we are sending the 89th edition of the EmailLove newsletter. So that's 89 weeks we've been sending this email. I don't think I have missed a week, even over Christmas, holidays, birthdays. I've managed to get it out, and it's gone from being a fairly long, arduous process to being something that's, I think, has become fairly streamlined and easy. And so I want to walk you through the original process, the improvements we've made, and then show you how we actually build our email today. And so I thought I would begin by taking a look at one of the first emails that we sent. So I'm just going to pull it up here. And this was just an intro email explaining how I've taken over EmailLove from Rob. Included a explanation and then some examples of emails. And Rob had actually built a process to create this email through WordPress. So you would actually go into WordPress and it would pull some of the latest emails for you directly into a template, and I would actually add my copy and then generate the email HTML directly from that WordPress backend. Unfortunately, that template didn't look great across all email clients, so I wasn't super happy with that. And with us being an email focused website and content, we couldn't really have that. I know many of you still do use Outlook to read the newsletter, and so we wanted to make sure that we were creating an accessible, responsive design that looked good everywhere. And so I did code a custom template. Oops, we don't need to go into the results, but you can see here our list was only around 2,000 people back then. And so we've gone from this template here, which was custom coded. And so I would go in here, I would add my copy directly to the HTML in Dreamweaver. Yes, I still even now occasionally use Dreamweaver. I'm that old school. But obviously that took a lot longer. It meant that I needed to be careful with the code. In fact, I can show you Dreamweaver. I think I have it here. So here's the email actually in Dreamweaver. So I would actually go into the code. Like I mentioned, I'm old school, so this isn't super hard for me to do. I would go in here, copy my code, update the images, update the links, again, directly in HTML. But that does leave room for error, and it wasn't really the fastest approach to building a newsletter every week. But that's how I did it for many weeks. And so you may have noticed recently the newsletter design has changed. So here we go June 3rd. I sent this newsletter with the updated design, and so we now build these emails directly in Figma using our own Figma plugin, which allows me to be a little bit faster, export code, and kind of curate the design and the content directly in a more visual environment. And so I'll walk you through that process, how we do that, and give you some tips and tricks along the way. So let's jump into Figma, and I'll show you how I set this up. So we use obviously the EmailLove Figma plugin, which is this thing here, and I've actually created some components. So these are Figma components. These are basically sections of an email that I can string together or kind of stack on top of each other like Lego blocks. And so I created those, and then I also created a component that was a full newsletter. So here's my master template. And typically what I do is on the left-hand side, I will create a new page. I will go into the asset library, and I could add individual components, or I could click on this one here, and I could just add an entire copy of my template directly to the file here. And so building my newsletter, I would say it takes probably between 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how fast I'm feeling that day. But I typically start from top to bottom, so the headline all the way down to the what we're reading section. I typically don't touch the footer. Maybe I should update this every once in a while, but typically this section and the actual T's and C's and address stays the same. Okay, so let's create a newsletter together. Actually, let's just use that text. Let's create a newsletter together. Maybe that's a little bit too long, so let's change it to build an email with me. Let's change it to newsletter. Will that fit? I don't like how it goes on to 3 lines. I think that's a little bit too long. Let's just leave it as this for now. We do have an image in here, and I do have some copy that I have already written out that I can paste in here. So I'm just going to paste my copy. Okay. And we can edit that as we go along. One thing that you may know me for, we may know Emailer for, is that we always like to include some funny fallback text. So I do always include someone's first name if you've given it to us, and then if you haven't given us the first name, I like to include some cheeky copy right here. So something like no name Nancy is what it can be this week. And that just that kind of catches the eye. It's not boring. It's interesting. People often wonder what I'm going to write next in there. So I think that will work for this one. For the image, we'll come back to this. We might put a screenshot of this video in here, or maybe even an animated GIF from the video. Could be interesting to put there as well. So here's our copy. We have a link, and I'll probably create a blog post, and I'll use the Figma plugin to add a link to that blog post in this button. But for now, we are going to move to the next section, which in this case, it's the sponsored section. So this week we are sponsored by Omnisend, so I don't need to make any changes here. But if we do have a new sponsor, I would obviously need to update the copy and the banner. And then we always like to include some inspiration, and I always include an animated GIF. I know people are always scrolling down to see what animation I've included in this week's newsletter. And so we actually have an animated GIF section of the website. And typically what I'll do is I'll come here and I will check out some of the top animations that we've added to the site recently. So I quite liked this Crate and Barrel email. I remember having some good animated GIFs. Yeah, I think this is quite cool. And then it had a different animation down here as well. Okay, so that's one option. The other option was the Samsung email, had some nice animation as well. Quite like that. Let's use this one. So I can actually just pick this up off the site, and then in Figma, I can go to this, this image, and I'm just going to replace it with the one that I put in my desktop. Let's just check how that renders. So I'm just going to preview this message. And there it is there. So I think that looks great. Okay, and then need to update the copy. So typically I will grab the description, add that in there. Oops. Whoopsie, I copied it wrong. I do like to include brand insights. Let's just check out the Samsung brand insight page. So yes, this looks like it's interesting. So we're going to include that link as well. Update the link color, there we go, and then we also need to link to the actual email. And we like to link the actual images and the button as well. And so we can do that directly in our Figma plugin. So we basically do everything inside the plugin itself. Oopsie. Okay, there we go. We then need to choose a couple of other emails to include. Let's do this one from frame.io. And one thing that we do on the site is whenever we post an email, the email gets automatically uploaded to social media, and we use a product called Imgix to generate this. I can show you here this image that you may have seen with the blurry background, and so I can pull that from the source code of the page, and then I can select this image and replace it with the new one. Okay, there we go. That looks nice. Oh, forgot I needed to update this. just make sure. Okay. Let's copy the link. And then also grab the description. Excellent. And then one more. Sorry if this is a little bit repetitive, but again, this is what's involved in building one of our newsletters. So let's just grab one more email. Let's do the Crate and Barrel. And so, yeah, previously, as I mentioned, I would have to do all of this directly inside of the HTML directly in Dreamweaver, which is okay if you know HTML very well, but also it's still more time consuming because I'd have to add paragraph breaks. I'd have to be very precise with what I selected. You can't really accidentally delete something, otherwise it could break the email. And so doing it in here is significantly faster for me. So I'm just going to grab the image URL. And then we are almost done. Okay, and then I just need the description. Okay, and then we're at the end of the email, and this is where I include kind of like top stories. This week I think we have this article to include from ourselves. So I created an AI tutorial that I'd like to include. And then I also just go through my favorite email related companies and I just grab some links from them or any interesting articles that I think readers will enjoy. Okay, so let's check out, since they're our sponsor this month, let's check out the OmniCenter blog. it doesn't have to be an article. I think this looks interesting. So let's link to this YouTube video. Again, it's just basically any interesting articles or things that would be useful. Quite often I'll look for AI related content or tutorials or reports and things like that. So let's grab that link. Okay, and then I think you get the idea. So that's our newsletter. And so what we can now do is, let's see, do we want to have a picture up here? This is very meta, but what we can do is we can actually take a screenshot of the current page, and then we can actually upload this directly in here. There we go. Okay, so let's preview this. Okay, so the email is currently coming in at 82 kilobytes, so it won't get clipped in Gmail. Let's have a look here. Looks good on desktop. The animation is working. Looks great. Let's check it out on mobile. Looking good on mobile because it's a template. Everything kind of has already been pre-designed and kind of spaced out. So we don't really need to mess with any of that. We can also check it out on dark mode. Looks good in dark mode as well. Okay, so now we just need to click on the export button. I almost always host the images with the plugin, so I check that box. And then I simply just use the copy HTML code button. That copies the email code to my clipboard. And then I can come in to MailerLite and set up my campaign. And so I'm going to create a new campaign. It's going to be a regular newsletter. I give it a date. I give mine newsletters the same name every time, which is very boring. I should probably mix that up. Subject line. Let's add an emoji. And then let's select our recipients, which are Email Love subscribers and Email Love registered users. We'll then go to the content, and we are using HTML. And then we simply need to, oh, that didn't work. Let's go back and copy it. Okay, so let's now paste that code into MailerLite. Okay, looking good. I think I do need to remove this from the unsubscribe. Okay, and then we can send ourselves a test. Here it is in Gmail. One thing that might be kind of cool is making this image animated. I might do that later. But you can see here, this is how it's going to render in Gmail. It's looking really good. I may also do some additional testing inside of InboxMonster. But generally, because we're using a template and the code's being generated via MJML, via our Figma plugin, generally the rendering should work across email clients and devices. And so that's pretty much the process. Once we're done editing, we would then schedule, and one thing that I pretty much do for every send is use send time or optimization. So MailerLite has a smart sending option. The email goes out over 24 hours, and it looks at when each user or each subscriber is most likely to open. Quite often that's based on time zone as well. I know that my dad always receives it around 2 p.m. New Zealand time, because he always replies to my email and says something about it. So I know that works quite nicely, especially since we have a very international audience. So I quite like that. So that's pretty much the process. You have spent 26 minutes, maybe, if you've made it to the end. I know that was a little bit slow in parts, but that is the full process of building and scheduling the Email Love newsletter. So hopefully that was useful and interesting for you to watch, and hopefully you learned a few things along the way. Thanks. Bye.